Welcome, golfaholics, to the Back Nine Report. Every week, we cover anything and everything in the world of golf. Normally, my co-host Carlos Torres opens the show, but he is not able to be with us tonight, so we have been forced to call in reinforcements. Mike May, our good friend and fellow golf writer, is joining us from sunny Florida and will help us cover the golf news, recaps, previews, plus he may just offer an opinion or two. He's been known to have an opinion about things. So, Mike, welcome to the Back Nine Report tonight.
It's a pleasure. This is a great way to spend the election night. We'll get into the election later. Let's talk about important things like golf right now.
Oh, this is way better than the election. I just turned it on for about 5 minutes before I came up to my office to do this tonight, and it's so early. There's hardly anything going on, but don't get me started. Don't get me started. Hey, Mike, I'm up here in northern Michigan. You've been up here. You know how beautiful it is up here. But guess what? It snowed on Sunday up here, right? We had a couple inches of snow. It was like a blizzard. But the Buckeyes are looking pretty good. The Browns sucked. And the golf in Bermuda looked pretty nice. I kind of want to go there. So how's things in sunny Florida?
I actually played golf on Sunday. It was a little damp, but it got better later in the day. We've had a lot of rain the last few weeks, so we're looking forward to maybe a dry winter so we can get out and play a lot of golf. But temperature today has actually got into the 70s, so we are now experiencing fall.
Well, we've already made plans. We're going to be down there in Florida for a few weeks in January, and hopefully if you're not traveling around on the LPGA Tour, we'll be able to play a little golf together.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
Mike, this week in golf, some of the top news stories. Another old guy, Brian Gay, got it done in Bermuda. Darren Clarke wins on the Champions Tour when Langer fades. That's unusual. England is closing golf courses, and we're only 1 week away, but we can't wait. The Masters is next week, but we've got a preview for the Masters we're going to talk about later tonight. As always, we got a lot of golf to talk about, so let's get right to it. And as we do every week, we will start the show with our backspin segment, where we break down the past weekend's golf action. And we're going to start with the PGA Tour and the Bermuda Championship that was held at Port Royal Golf Course on the beautiful island of Bermuda. Total purse was $4 million, $720,000 going to 48-year-old Brian Gay. Wyndham Clark fired a 5-under par 31 on the front nine. He was in control. But on his way to his first PGA Tour win, he bogeyed number 16, still posted a 65 for the day. But Brian Gay said, not so fast, my friend. Gay fired a final round 64, tied Clarke at 15 under. Then the 48-year-old Gay beat Clarke on the first playoff hole. Could see Clarke got overly nervous at the end of his round on Sunday on the back nine. Got way too quick. He needs to learn to slow down a little bit, take a few breaths, maybe let it happen a little bit. Kind of reminded me of you when you get on those birdie barrages and your speed picks up and you just can't wait to get to the next hole. Hey, Brian Gay joined the PGA Tour in 1998 and has kept his card for 22 straight years. This win will set him up for 2 more years and take him right in the Champions Tour. What comments you got about the Bermuda Championship, Mike?
Well, the one thing about Brian Gay you neglected to mention, maybe it was intentional, he's a University of Florida graduate. He's a fellow Gator like myself. We Gators, we do well when the chips are down, and he's been a great putter, and I think it was his first win since 2011, or I think it was 2013 was his last win, and he's steady, and he got that flat stick going and made just enough putts to win, and again, he'll cruise right into the senior tour at age 50.
Yeah, he was putting really well, but he was also hitting his irons really well. He hit some really good iron shots. He made a few longer putts, but really he was hitting his irons close and then just rolling in those 6, 7, 8 footers. So he looked really good. There have been 3 winners, 40 years of age or older already this fall. Stuart Sink won, Sergio Garcia won, and now Brian Gay. That's the most winners 40 or older during a fall event since the start of the wraparound. Do you see this trend continuing, or are we still going to see the young guys when we get back into the first of the year?
Well, I think it trends naturally into the last guy to win the Masters was in his 40s, Tiger last year. So why not a gentleman in his 40s? Maybe a 50-year-old Phil Mickelson. You never know. We'll get into that next later in the show. But I just think that if the old guys just have a little more maturity, they don't get rattled, and they know that there's always another hole to play to come back from. So it's probably as much a mindset thing as anything else.
Ollie Schneiderhan's, there's a name we haven't been talking about that much over the last couple of years. Was off the tour, got a sponsor's exemption, made the most of it, finished solo third. A good week for him. Stuart Sink, who we mentioned earlier, won earlier this fall. Another good finish, T4 with Denny McCarthy, who fired a 63 to move up 20 spots on Sunday. Will Zalatoris, Carlos, I know he's sad he can't be here tonight. Talk about his guy, Will Zalatoris. He ended up T16, but earned enough money to get special temporary membership so he can get all the sponsors' invitations that he can get over the next few weeks and until he gets full membership. That's good for Will. He's been playing at a really high level for the last year or so on the Korn Ferry Tour. Unfortunate, he would have earned a card for next year. He'd actually be a full PGA Tour member if we wouldn't have had the coronavirus. But he's going to be on the tour anyhow. He's playing well enough. He's going to stick. And lastly, Kiradech Afi Bonrot was a T11. Haven't seen him in America for a while. But I got one more question before we leave this section, Mike, for you. Brian Gay is 48. He's only got 2 more years on tour. With this win, it sets him up going into the Champions Tour. We've seen Phil and Jim Furyk do well. Ernie Els do well on the Champions Tour since turning 50. Brian Gay could be a guy that really dominates on the Champions Tour after he turns 50, don't you think?
Yes, I mean, the courses are a little shorter, which means you're probably hitting more 8-irons, 9-iron wedges into par 4s. And again, he's a very good putter. And as you made a comment earlier, he's a very consistent player. He's never lost his card in 22 straight years. And I think this win will catapult him as much mentally into thinking that I'm now getting ready for the Champions Tour, and he'll be looking forward to that 50th birthday more than the average person.
Speaking of the Champions Tour, that segues very nice right into the Timber Tech Championship at Boca Raton. This was the final event before the Charles Schwab Cup Championship next week in Phoenix. And the Champions Tour was at Boca Raton, not too far right from where you're at in southeastern Florida.
Yes, down at Broken Sound. Of course, Darren Clarke won, but the big story on Friday was John Daly. I think he opened up with a 64. He's been through some cancer treatments, and but then he faded with a 1 over par round on Saturday, and obviously there was no cut. But Clarke did well. It was his first win since the Open Championship back in 2011 at Royal St. George's. So good feel-good story in the front, good feel-good story at the end.
Yeah, something happened. It just doesn't happen very often. Bernhard Langer, when he's in the lead, didn't close the deal. He made 2 bogeys in his last 4 holes, which allowed Darren Clarke to catch him and roll in a birdie at the final hole to get his first Champions Tour win. Clarke had made an ugly double bogey at number 9, but made 3 birdies on the back 9, including the one at 18 to get the win. Jim Furyk finished fast and tied for runner-up with Langer, one shot back of Clarke. Miguel Angel Jimenez, we love Miguel Angel. He was solo 4th. Gene Sowers tied with Robert Carlson for 5th. Carlson was in the mix for the lead during the round, especially after the front 9. He carded a minus 333 on the front, was right where he wanted to be, but it all went wrong for him on the back 9 when he carded double and 3 bogeys to go with 3 birdies for a 2 over par 38, fell all the way down to 5th. Carlson has not been in the hunt on Sunday for a long time. I think his nerves got the better of him, Mike, last week. We're accustomed also seeing Scott Perrell be one of the best front runners on the Champions Tour, but he also played poorly on Sunday, firing a 74 and falling 17 places to a tie for 21st. Darren Clarke, Mike, looks like he's practicing Bryson DeChambeau's weight addition tactics, using Guinness instead of protein shakes. What do you think about that? I know you're a fan.
I saw some of his post-round discussions, and as he was driving away, he remarked to a reporter, it's beer o'clock, it's beer time. So he was ready to celebrate as soon as that card became official. And he had that nice Irish grin, and he was in fine form and delighted to be in the winner's circle. Probably just delighted to be there and even more excited to win.
Yeah, we haven't seen Darren do much over the last few years, so good to see him get a win on Champions Tour. Let's talk about the European Tour real quick. The Cyprus Open. We've got Callum Shinkwin, who won in Cyprus, holding an incredible 54-foot putt for eagle at the 18th to set the clubhouse target at 20 under par with a closing round 63. Who is Callum Shinkwin? I'm sure you know exactly who this is. He's 27 years old, turned pro in 2013, so he's been out there for a while. He's 168th in the world, 51 now on the race to Dubai. He only made 8 cuts in 16 starts this season, only one top 10 prior to this win. Did you check out anything about this European Tour, Mike?
Well, I saw he's from England, and again, it's a first-time winner. He's just out there trying to keep it together, and he did it well enough on Sunday to win. And his confidence has to be sky high. I mean, just to win a European event for someone like that who struggled for so long has just got to be, I see it almost like an early Christmas gift in the year of 2020. Anything that we've never seen before, the unexpected is happening this year, and this European victory is right in line with that train of thought.
Yeah, in his career, he's had 112 European Tour starts, only made 63 cuts, only about 50%. He's only had one other runner-up, 11 top 10s, and now that single win. It's earned over 2.3 million euros, so he's made a pretty good career of it, but just not a lot of wins. The runner-up, Samuja, was also searching for his first European title, jumped up 30 places to 36th, and sealed his spot in the DP World Tour Championship coming up in Dubai in a couple weeks. Jamie Donaldson, Gary Kigo, and Robert McIntyre all collected race to Dubai points for finishing 2 shots back for his third, and they all edge closer to making the DP World Championship as well. Mike, any closing comments on the European Tour?
Again, I wonder if this young man will go from strength to strength, and I wonder if he's now thinking about the Ryder Cup next year. It's got to be on his radar screen, and he's picked up some big points. Could be one of those young, inexperienced but excited young guns who may come over here and pick up a point if he makes the team. So you never know where a victory leads him.
The Sumatra Tour was in North Carolina, at Pinehurst to be exact. I'd like to be in Pinehurst, Mark. Mike, I like Pinehurst a lot. Anna Balak claimed her first professional win in wire-to-wire, going wire-to-wire. She was heading into the final round of the Carolina Golf Classic with a 6-stroke lead. So as long as she didn't break her leg, she was pretty sure she was going to get that win. She's from Slovenia. How many people do you know from Slovenia?
She is the only one, but I'm sure there'll be another one, and now that she's risen to stardom.
Carded a 2 over par 74 in the final round, but that was good enough to get the win. She had 49 to 56 fairways. That sounds like you, straight down the middle all the time. On
Steady Eddie, they call me. Steady Eddie.
On Pioneers number 9. She was a senior at Duke early in the year, but when Duke canceled the spring golf season, she turned pro. She has played in every event on the Sumatra Tour this year, except for the first event in Florida, the Florida's Natural Charity Classic. Made every cut in the 8 starts. She has 6 top 20 finishes in her 8 starts, just her rookie season, along with the one win. She's now number 2 in the Volvic race for the card. She's looking very good. Normally, she'd be in great shape to get an LPGA card for next year, but all that stuff's on hold because of coronavirus. So I guess that wraps up. You got any comments on the Sumatra Tour at all?
No, but I'm spending more and more of my professional time with an organization that's keeping track of scoring on the LPGA Tour. So I'm seeing firsthand the brilliance of these young ladies, and there seems to be a different set of players every week in contention. And the players off the Sumatra Tour, they're tried, tested, proven, excited, and I would not be surprised if we see the LPGA Winner's Circle within a year or two.
Let's move on to the 4 call, where we preview all the tournament action that's going to be happening this next week. On the Champions Tour, we've got the Charles Schwab Cup Championship, which is the final event of the year. You've got a $1 million prize for the Charles Schwab Cup trophy on the line. You've got a $2.5 million purse for the tournament, and with about $440,000 going to the winner of the event. So let's talk a little bit about the Charles Schwab Cup. The top 5 leaders right now in points are Bernhard Langer, Ernie Els, Miguel Angel Jimenez, Scott Perel, and Jerry Kelly. Only Els, Miguel Angel, and Scott Perel really have a chance to catch Langer, who has $1.4 million in earnings. Assuming Bernhard finishes well down the leaderboard this week, that's the only chance that they have, that they finish in the top 1, 2, 3, or 4, and Bernhard really has a bad week. Who's going to win the 1.35 mil? Well, Furyk, Ernie, Clarke, Langer, Carlson, they're too far down. Not going to happen. No Phil this week on the Champions Tour. He's in Houston playing with the young guys. Mm-hmm. Several guys in this field this week are going to fly right to Augusta on Sunday night for the Masters after the event. You got Freddie Couples, Bernhard Langer, Sandy Lyle, Larry Mize, Jose Maria Lodville, Vijay Singh, and Mike Weir all playing this week. They're going to play in the Masters next week, Mike.
I think that in light of the fact that the Charles Schwab Cup is coming up, maybe Langer was thinking about next week, this past weekend. Even this past weekend, he lives in Boca Raton. He knows that course at Broken Sound well. But we're all human. We're all prone to a hiccup here and there. Again, Langer is 63, I believe. His consistency is unrivaled. The only other senior player who's really been even close is Hale Irwin. Even Trevino did well into his late 50s, but Langer is, don't be surprised to see him make the cut at Augusta.
And he's so fit. I mean, he looks like he's only about maybe just turned 50. I mean, the guy must work out like crazy and watch his diet because he's really in great shape.
He can keep up with the young guys, and his peers are probably just, they're amazed at what he does week in and week out, year in, year out. But it's all because of fitness and discipline, and he's got that very strong mindset that continues to reap dividends and produce birdies.
The PGA Tour moves on down to Houston this week, the week before the Masters. Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Jason Day, Tony Finau, Sergio, Victor Hovland, Graham McDowell, Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth, Lee Westwood, Danny Willett, Hideki Matsuyama, and our buddy Phil Mickelson are all in the field this week trying to get that last round in before the Masters. We also have Francisco Molinari in the field trying to get his game back in order. Now that he's living in the United States, we haven't seen much out of him since he won the Open Championship. And Mike, the big deal here in Houston this week is that they're allowing about 2,500 fans to be on the course. Should fans be allowed, or is that too many, too few? What do you think?
I think 2,500 people over the course of a golf course can be spread out fairly well, though obviously the favorites will draw the biggest crowds, and as long as they can keep them socially distanced, I think people will realize that there's a camera on them everywhere at all times. It'll be a good test tube moment for golf to showcase. And though it can be played, we've proven that, it can also be played with spectators. And I know there were attempts to bring spectators to events in Ohio earlier in the summer, but that got canceled. So everybody's eyes are on Houston, as much for the preparation for Augusta as it is, can they play with spectators? And I think the answer will be yes, especially at 2,500.
They had about 2,000 spectators there in Bermuda. They were really kept way away from the course. They were, not even in the rough up along the fairways. They were way back. And of course, 2,000 people on a 400 or 500 acre golf course, that's not very many people. I'm sure they could handle a lot more, but I think they're more concerned about people congregating around food tents or beer tents and those kind of things. So I'm sure that's the idea, and it works pretty well. At least they're getting some people out there. And Mike, what I'm seeing or what I'm hearing is that we're not going to see fans back on the golf course to any large extent until probably the Florida Swing in March.
Yeah, when I go to golf tournaments, for years, I've been practicing social distancing and didn't realize it because I don't want to be near someone because they're in the way of what I want to watch. So the game lends itself to social distancing, and when you reinforce it, it becomes the primary goal.
So, Mike, the European Tour is going to stay in Cyprus for the Cyprus Showdown. Keith Pelley's at it again. It's an unusual format. You got the first two rounds are going to be just like every other round match. It's a stroke play, but then they're going to cut down to 32 players for Saturday. Everybody's going to start from zero again, and they're going to play Saturday. Then they're going to cut to 16 for the final round on Sunday. So it's a shootout kind of thing. They call it a showdown. Keith Pelley is not shy about trying anything to get people to watch the European Tour or try to make it unique. And it looks like he's trying it again, doing it again.
Well, first of all, I applaud the European Tour for staying in Cyprus for another week. I would too. Who wouldn't want to stay in Cyprus for 2 straight weeks? In some respects, what Keith Pelley has is sort of an NCAA basketball tournament mentality. Just survive and move to the next round. You don't have to go out and shoot 59. Just play well enough to make the cut, to make the round of 32, to make the round of 16, and then when the pressure's on Sunday, go for the gold. So I think it'll be well received by the players and one they may want to do elsewhere.
Yeah, I might try to watch a little bit on Sunday morning and see how that's getting along. I haven't gotten to watch much of the European Tour lately, but we didn't talk about it earlier. Carlos and I talk about it all the time, and Kieran, with the coronavirus, the top European Tour players have come to the United States and pretty much stayed here. Some of them did go back for the BMW PGA, their biggest event, but the European Tour events have been really kind of minor names, almost been like Korn Ferry Tour kind of thing over there. So a lot of names have been winning or finishing high on the leaderboards that we haven't got to see much. So this is the same kind of thing. They're staying in Cyprus for 2 weeks, trying to do their best to stay separate from the rest of the population. So, it's nice to see some of these guys. And like you made mention to earlier, some of these guys, even though they're ranked maybe like 300, 400, 500 in the world, a win does wonderful, or some top 10 finishes does a wonderful thing for their confidence. All of a sudden, they start showing up on leaderboards everywhere.
I mean, you can look at America's Brooks Koepka. He went over there as a no-name, trying to establish himself, getting on their the tour that leads up to the European Tour, and he did it that way. So if it can happen with Brooks Koepka, of course, he's a very talented player, but when he went over there, nobody knew him. I knew him. You knew him. But now the world knows about him. So European Tours, they play some great golf courses, and those players, they know how to drive, pitch, and putt. They're just not doing it on CBS and NBC and ABC on the weekends here in the U.S.
Just want to mention that the Symetra Tour Championship is being held this week at River Run Country Club in Davison, North Carolina. It actually started today, will run through Friday. It's the last event of the year on the Symetra Tour. Normally would give 10 players LPGA Tour cards for next season, but that's all on hold. Yes, let's talk just a minute about Boyne. I know you like Boyne. Yes, it's cold in northern Michigan. It actually snowed a couple of inches on Sunday. No, it's not especially great for golf right now, but the people of Boyne are gearing up for the ski season. The fairways are turned into ski slopes. But there are hot deals, Mike, on booking your golf getaway for 2021. 10 courses, spas, great dining, every kind of outdoor activity imaginable. Visit Boyne.com/golf and book your buddy's trip or girls golf getaway for next season right now. That's Boyne, BOYNE.com/golf. Book your buddy's trip for 2021, Mike.
You've convinced me. I've been there once. The great thing about Boyne is that I took so many pictures, I captured videos, I can scroll my phone and take myself right back to Boyne on any given day of the year, and I would look forward to going back there, hopefully in 2021.
Well, when you're up here with the LPGA next summer, if you can you got a week off in there someplace, maybe we'll slip over there someplace up here and play a little golf.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's talk about the Par 5 news. We got some really good news items this week. Let's start off with PGA of America news. They held their annual meeting last week, of course, virtually. Nobody can travel. They didn't go. It's all over the internet. Susie Whaley ended her 2-year reign as the president, and Jim Richardson was installed as the next president. He's the 42nd president. He's from Scottsdale, Arizona. He's a senior vice president of operations for Troon Golf and a member of the Southwest PGA section. He succeeds Whaley, who completed a 2-year term as president, now PGA honorary president. Jim Lindert is the new vice president of Grand Ledge, Michigan, so just down the road here a little bit. Don Ray from Gilbert, Arizona is the new PGA secretary. So he started the chairs. That's how they move up. They do one for 2 years, they move it to the next for 2 years, and they move into the president's slot. Hard to believe, Mike, that it was 6 years ago that we were talking about Susie Whaley becoming the PGA secretary and on her way to get to be the president. And now we're through her 2-year term already. And it's amazing that time has gone that fast.
In some respects, Susie's probably had the most bizarre 2-year term because 2019 was rather conventional, and then 2020 has been anything but by the book. And again, for her leadership era to end this way is kind of too bad. She probably could have made a bigger and more positive impact in the game had things been a little more conventional. But she's not going anywhere. Her presence is still around, and I know she'll continue to impact the game in a positive way moving forward.
Can't forget that you and I were playing the PGI course at PGA Village, and we're out on the range hitting a few balls to get warmed up before our tee time. And Susie was just a couple spaces down on the range getting ready to play. And she was kind enough to give us a short interview and talk to us for a minute. So
I remember that you were mid-swing and you happened to catch her voice, and you stopped, went over there and introduced yourself, and I thought, wow, that was good pickup by you. And she was very approachable and very given of her time, and I think that speaks to the mindset of today's PGA professionals.
Absolutely. More news from PGA annual meeting. Tim Rosefort was selected as the first journalist to receive honorary membership in the PGA of America. He is the 12th person ever to receive the designation of honorary member. He's 65, former senior writer for Golf World, Golf Digest, and Mr. Insider as an analyst for Golf Channel NBC. Recognized during the annual meeting. Mike, we recognize Tim from his writing, his national magazines, seeming in the media rooms around some of the tournaments that we've been to. He's one of the top golf writers in the business today. Congrats to him.
Yes, actually, I live in the greater West Palm Beach area. When I moved down here in the late 80s, Tim was the main golf writer for the Palm Beach Post. And before that, he was with the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale. And before that, he was over in Tampa working under the legendary Tom McCune. And McCune told him that spend time playing golf with people. You'll learn more about people in 5 hours on a golf course than in any other environment. And I think that Tim Rosefort called that an epiphany moment. And one he'll, Tom McCune is not with us anymore, but the impact that he made on Tim Rosefort was substantial. And Tim's legendary length of the game can be attributed to the fact that he had 147 majors he covered and 17 Ryder Cups. So obviously he was good at what he did, and he had great longevity, and he's a standard by which all should be measured.
We got another story here about Bubba Watson. Bubba says he thought he was going to die. We have noticed that Bubba seems to be trending in the right direction lately, heading up to the Masters. But what we didn't know, that he was in a very dark place for nearly 18 months. He's been a top golfer for a long time, 2 Masters green jackets, one of the greatest shot shapers of all time. It's fun just to watch him move the ball around. He admitted he's been having severe anxiety attacks. But he says he's feeling good right now. He's been getting some help and some therapy and things. Sought out many different reigns, many different forms, trying to overcome it. It really comes down to me being nuts. I'm trying to make it light of it because using humor helps. But it's all in my head. It's all anxiety. We've known for a long time that Bubba really was uncomfortable playing on the PGA Tour because he was uncomfortable playing in front of crowds and being around large groups of people. Which, if you're a pro golfer or a professional athlete, that's not a good thing. He thinks more people are speaking out about mental issues. He wants to be one of them. It's really one of the only ways to get through it, to open up and try to alleviate it. If I don't share it, if I don't try to get better myself, then he can maybe also help some other people. Over the years, he's often said he needs help, and he fears many things, included like flying, crowded spaces, and now COVID-19. He worries about being a good father, good husband. good Christian, good friend. So he worries about a lot of things. We've always known him as a twitchy kind of a guy out on the golf course. You just never know quite where his head is at. Tough he's going through that, but it's a good thing he's getting help. And to be able to perform at the level of golf that he's performed over the years and still have these issues is quite a testament to him.
Yeah, so it brings up the cliche, you can't judge a book by its cover, and one would never think by watching Bubba on TV or in person that he had those demons and those issues in his head. One thing I'll be very complimentary of is, I think, and I hope Bubba hears this, but his willingness to be emotionally vulnerable and reveal what's been going on in his life is actually a strength. And a lot of people are afraid of admitting that, and they hide it. But Bubba's, he's never hid his feelings. I mean, I can remember when he first won, it was an emotional moment. His dad was not there, and his dad had been such a big part of his golfing life. So kudos to Bubba for coming out and telling the world what's going through his mind and his life. And I think he's going to gain a lot of respect and support from many people.
Mike, I know you, like thousands of others, millions of others, and including myself, were really disappointed when we couldn't have the Masters back in April. We look forward to that. We count the days. When it starts getting January, we start counting the days to the beginning of April when the Masters is going to start. We've been there together several different times, walking the grounds, just soaking up that atmosphere, watching it on TV. It's always something to behold. So just kind of as a preview, even though it's a week from now, I got a couple things here, and I thought maybe we'd talk about it just a little bit. So the hot topic in golf right now, of course, is the distance of Bryson DeChambeau. If he's going to hit it that far at Augusta National, where there's really not much rough, can anyone beat him? Is he the prohibitive favorite going into next week?
I think he probably is, but will the moment become too big for him? It's one thing.
You guys won a U.S. Open. He's won a U.S. Open. What's a little Masters?
Well, I had a conversation with Johnny Miller a few years ago, and he, of course, won the 1973 U.S. Open, that big comeback at Oakmont. And in 1975, Johnny was the hottest player in the world. And he told me that he was the prohibitive favorite at Augusta. And he'd already won a U.S. Open, so it wasn't like he wasn't used to winning a big title. And he said the moment just got too big for him. And by then, he had won more tournament titles than Bryson DeChambeau has done at this point in his life. Both have a U.S. Open, and Johnny barely made the cut. And then he decided to start playing golf and relaxing, and there was that famous shootout with him, Weiskopf, and Nicklaus on Sunday. So
one of the greatest Masters ever.
Will DeChambeau be able to stay in the moment and not let the moment get bigger than what it should be? In the end, it's just golf. But the world is watching. Everybody has high expectations. He's the betting favorite in Vegas. He's probably his own betting favorite. Can he deal with those greens when the chips are down and he's got to make a putt? And can he keep that ball below the hole? Even though he may have a long drive, you still have to manufacture a wedge shot or a chip and run and get it on the green at the right place at the right time to make that putt. So it's probably those 18 inches between his two ears that he needs to overcome. We shall see. But the one player I think who nobody's talking about because we haven't seen much of him is Brooks Koepka, who was a second place finisher last year to Tiger. He's coming in again under the radar screen, but I'm sure he's happy to have DeChambeau up there in the limelight as the favorite that everybody's talking about, and deservedly so. It'll be exciting.
Before the COVID stoppage, Rory McIlroy was playing probably the best golf of his life for about a year and a half up until like March or April. And when they come back from the stoppage, he's been very inconsistent. It even seems like lackadaisical. He makes kind of mental mistakes, does stupid little stuff. He carded 30 birdies in 72 holes at the Zozo Championship, still finished T17. What is wrong with Rory? Is he going to be a contender at Augusta this year?
I think he is going to be a contender. He has to be considered a contender because of the fact that he's won all these majors, and then, of course, the attention is can he complete the career Grand Slam by winning at Augusta? And he's proven he can play this golf course because he's had many good rounds. I think the big issue with Rory, as has been documented, is his consistency with the wedge game. Whether it's a gap wedge or a pitching wedge or a sand wedge or 56 degree or whatever. Can he dial in? And maybe he needs to work on playing these holes backwards so he ends up with a very similar distance shot nearly every time. So it's not an 80-yard shot or a 95-yard shot, but it's a consistent length with a wedge that he's comfortable with. But 30 birdies in 72 holes is impressive. And if he can just dial in those wedge shots so he can lead himself at worst a two-putt, he'll do well.
30 birdies. I mean, if you play any kind of thing around par or even 4 or 5 over, you're 25 under for 4 rounds. That blows everybody away by 10 shots normally. So that's an amazing statistic. 30 birdies and finishes T17. Last question on this. Tiger and Phil have not been impressive since the return to golf in June. Do either of them have a snowball's chance in where of being close to the leaders at the Masters?
I think that you start taking them out of the equation when they don't show up. There is a certain level of energy and another gear that goes into their bodies when they show up at Augusta. I mean, let's go back to 1986. No one had Jack Nicklaus on the radar screen. He was struggling, but he caught the vibe at the right moment and shot that 30 in the back nine on Sunday and won. So, I mean, Tiger won last year. Phil's had 2 wins on the Champions Tour, so they have not forgotten how to win. And again, when they get to Augusta, it's a whole different ballgame. Mentally, I think they're probably a stroke or two ahead of the opposition because they're proven winners. They love the course. They feel at home there. And if Phil can shoot top 20 at Houston, then he's definitely in consideration. If he's top 10, he's definitely a prohibitive favorite. And if he wins in Houston, he may be a bigger topic of conversation than DeChambeau. So we'll see. Again, Phil probably wants to win at Augusta more. If he can just sort of just gear it back a little bit. You don't have to shoot 18 under on every round to do well there. But it'll be fun and exciting, and I think it'll be great for golf if both of them are contending, especially on Sunday. It would be great to have the 2 of them together on a final pairing on a Masters Sunday in their, well, Phil's 50 and Tiger's mid-40s.
It's going to be 45 December 30th.
Yes.
You're talking about, well, we're going to get to that later. I'm not going to blow that. Hey, you made a really good point. Augusta National is one of the few golf courses that they play every year. And they, played it every year since 1934, except for a couple of years in there when the war was on and things like that. But it's a course where experience really does matter. And so these young guys have this mentality of firing at every pin. That doesn't play well at Augusta for some of those pin placements. You have to play away and leave yourself some kind of a putt that you're not going to 3 or 4 putt. Experience does matter there. So you're right. If Tiger and Phil can have a week when they're feeling good, the body's not hurting them too much, and they can replicate their swing, they could be a factor, even though they haven't showed us much over the past few months.
How many times do you think Tiger's been going over that first tee shot, which I know that whole sort of a left to right, somewhat dog-leggish par 4, and if he can just get a good tee shot, so often he seems to snap, hook it left into the woods, and he's scrambling to make par, but good drive for him. Birdie becomes an opportunity. If he starts out with 1 under, then Katie barred the door, he's off and running.
I can just see him down there on the driving range practicing. He's got that first hole locked up in his head. He's stroking that high draw down there, and he's probably he might be actually up in Augusta, probably about tomorrow or Thursday, maybe for a couple days, getting in some practice. So maybe he can get a good start and get things going. Mike, a couple unique things this year for the Masters. There is no par 3 this year, of course, due to COVID, and College Game Day is going to be live at Augusta National. Not sure why they're doing that, but that might be something. You're going to get your football report from the from the clubhouse. And also, they're going to play split tees. They're going to play 1 and 10 because there's only so much daylight in November, and they still got 100 players to get around there. So they're going to use some split tees and try to get some guys around the golf course.
I think it's great that they're thinking out of the box. I'm not sure who approached whom as far as College Game Day coming to Augusta, or Augusta invited them. But kudos to Augusta National. They've done the drive, pitch, and putt. Obviously, it's not taking place this year, and they continue to think in ways that you would never expect them to think. And it'll definitely add to the ratings for ESPN, and probably draw more attention to the Masters. And maybe there's a prominent player who misses the cut on Friday and is a guest on Saturday morning picking his alma mater to win a college football game. So
there you go. Maybe they could get Fred Ryder in there, or somebody, get one of the Augusta Nationals uppity ups to get him in there. I don't think that'll happen. Here's a subject for you. England is joining Ireland and Wales in closing golf courses. England's going to close down November 5th for nearly a month. That's in 2 days here. Not everybody likes it. The CEO of England Golf, Jeremy Tomlinson, wrote a letter to the Prime Minister arguing to keep golf courses open. We've seen courses closed here for a month, 6 weeks, and when they opened, the business was booming. I know it's beginning to get winter over there, and maybe not everybody's playing golf anyhow, but does closing golf courses in England, Ireland, and Wales make any sense to you, Mike?
It doesn't. They've proven they're probably more safety conscious than we are over here, and we've proven that golf can be played. They've implemented a play safe, stay safe strategy. Every course has really kept people focused on the promises, and it's good for the economy. It's good for the mindset. It's good for golf. And admittedly, not everybody's going to play golf in November, but for those who can, maybe those living in the southern part of England would have a better chance. And it certainly doesn't send a good message for those Americans who want to make a trip to Scotland, Ireland, England next year. I mean, do they make plans now? Will the courses be open? Again, they've proven this can happen. Don't change something that's a success, and it helps the national psyche too.
I'm sure they're really concerned again about the restaurant and bar business. Guys sitting around drinking beer after their round, wanting to socialize a little bit. I'm sure, but that's easily solved. Just close that part of it. When golf was shut down here, we weren't able to even go in the clubhouse. You paid either online and went, or got your tee time, or when you got to the golf course, you did something. You stayed outside, and the pro or whoever took your money, they were inside and went, but they didn't talk to you. You kept a distance. So there's a way to do it. I'm really surprised that they closed golf courses again in the UK. That just blows my mind, really.
And another point that's worth noting is that over in the UK, they really don't have a tradition of golf carts. They call them buggies. They walk, they carry their bag, they use a pull cart. So the English and the Scottish and the Welsh and the Irish, they have a history of toting their own bag and or putting on a pull cart, which they call a trolley. So they've been practicing social distance golf for decades. Let them keep doing it, and I think that that point has been made. We'll see if the Prime Minister changes his mind.
Mike, the golf world lost a giant last week. I got a few words here. I'm just going to kind of go through this real quick. Of course, we're talking about Sean Connery, who was an actor but was an avid golfer. When Sean Connery passed at the age of 90, he had struggled with health issues in the last few years, but will always be remembered by golfers as 007 in a golf match with Goldfinger. Sean Connery portrayed Ian Fleming's James Bond in 7 movies, and for most, he is the best and only Bond that got it right. Connery led a remarkable life. Born in Scotland, he grew up during the Great Depression and worked a variety of jobs: milkman, coffin polisher, bricklayer, lifeguard, served in the Queen's Navy. 1989, he was voted the sexiest man alive, named the sexiest man of the century, as well as a consummate golfer. Only a few words uttered in his deep Scottish accent, and everyone knew instantly who was speaking. Being from the home of golf, it was preordained that he would become a golfer. When Goldfinger was filmed in 1964, golf was in its infancy in America. Arnold Palmer was lighting up television screens and making new golf fans every week. Seeing golf on the big screen in a big budget James Bond movie grew the game exponentially. From that acting experience, Connery gained an appreciation for golf and was a devoted golfer for the rest of his life. In a post to his Facebook page, Jack Nicklaus remembered his longtime friend as a founding member of Muirfield Village and was thankful for Connery's coaching tips to better present himself when on camera and handling public appearances. Another longtime golf and business friend, Alan Fidel, told us, Sean loved golf. He thrived on the competition. He was proud of his work with the R&A and the medals he earned in tournament action. He became close friends with many of his golfing companions as they shared a common bond and a love of the game. He will be missed. In addition, he was one of the best actors of his time, was knighted by the Queen Elizabeth, and voted the greatest living Scotsman. He made the most of whatever shot life gave him, and he lived a life well played, Mike.
Could not have said it better myself. I'm a big James Bond film, but probably my favorite Sean Connery movie was The Rock, where he was showed how you can escape from Alcatraz. But I have one quick story on Sean. When I played Royal St. George's in June of 2018, Sean, the caddy master at Royal St. George's, which will host the Open next year, where, keep our fingers crossed, he told me that Ian Fleming was going to be a captain, and that's a unique position in most British clubs. He was about to be the captain of Royal St. George's, and he died. But the motivation or the roots of the decision making on to call this character 007. Where did you come up with the name 007? Well, it just so happens there's a public bus that goes from nearby Deal past Royal St. George's on the way to Sandwich. And that bus, like all buses, has a number. That bus number was 007. So the character James Bond 007 came from a public bus that traveled daily in the southeast of England. True story. So I'll want to share that little tidbit with you.
That's a good one, Mike. Love it. That wraps up the Par 5 news for tonight. And so we want to move into right now our very important guest segment. And our very important guest tonight is Ed Travis, who is a longtime golf writer, really specializes in the golf equipment business. He's an equipment reviewer, knows everything about the golf equipment companies. And I had the chance to talk with him about the recent merger between Callaway and TopGolf. Actually, probably not a merger is the right word. It's Callaway actually bought TopGolf in a stock swap. So let's play this interview, Mike, and then we'll chat a minute about it. So here's Ed Travis. We're happy to welcome Ed Travis back to Back Nine Report. Ed is a longtime golf writer, equipment reviewer, and contributor to both Michigan and Ohio golf journals, as well as many other golf publications around the country. Ed, it was announced last week that Callaway, a leader in the golf club equipment and manufacturing business, would buy TopGolf, an entertainment, restaurant, and golf range complex for $2 billion. Is this, as an equipment expert, you know everything about everything in a business, were you somewhat surprised by this announcement?
It's specifically about TopGolf. Not really, because Callaway already owned 14% of TopGolf. But there's another factor that also didn't lead me to be surprised, and that is that Callaway has been looking for non-equipment additions to their business. And it's just that, they bought Jack Wolfskin and Travis Matthew and Ogio Bags. Very nice businesses, but they're not anywhere near the size of TopGolf. Now, add to that the fact that the TopGolf brand is far and away the most recognizable in the golf entertainment business. And since Callaway had already owned 14% of it, this was, in one respect, kind of a cheap buy, and then they did it with stock. There wasn't any cash involved. So yeah, I think it was not, and that was not totally a big surprise.
Was TopGolf suffering a little bit because their main business, yeah, they're in the golf, they're supposed to be in the golf thing, but their main business is really entertainment, restaurant, bar, corporate parties, wedding outings and family outings and all those kind of things. Were they kind of hurting through this COVID process?
No, I don't think that they were hurting anywhere near as bad as they could have. They spent a lot of mind, a lot of energy, and a lot of money creating their venue, putting things in their venues, excuse me, that allows people to come and play. I've been there a couple of times myself during the COVID pandemic, and in a very, very neat, socially responsible, distance responsible atmosphere. On top of that, they are aggressively adding on new locations. I think they have 63 worldwide right now, and they've announced that they're going to be building more.
I think I read over the last couple of years, they are realizing growth of about 30% a year. Do you see that continuing over the next few years?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think that this, if we think about it, you and I are both old-time golf people, and it may be difficult for guys in our generation and our mindset to think about golf in the sense that it's an entertainment, a part of the entertainment business, in the sense that over half the people that go to TopGolf have never played golf. So that adds a real string to the bow for Callaway to buying TopGolf, because now they have a readily available market for their clubs and balls, not to mention also their soft goods, their apparel lines. So that's kind of a neat deal, actually.
There are some in the industry that say that actually Callaway kind of stole this. At $2 billion, it's a pretty good deal with no cash outlay, just stock transfer.
Yeah, I think it was a really good deal for Callaway. And, in these mergers and acquisitions business, you can always tell who came out on top, and that is which company's guy is running the thing. It's Chip Brewer, who's the president and CEO of Callaway. And there's been some speculation in the media that this was a merger. Well, okay, I guess you could call it a merger. But in truth and in fact, the guy that's going to be making the decisions as soon as this deal closes is Chip Brewer, who used to work for TaylorMade, who used to work for Adams Golf, and is one of the most well-respected and well-thought-of people in the golf industry.
Yeah, I was a little taken aback at first, but doing some research and looking at some of the numbers and what they expect out of this thing, even if they don't realize the full potential of what they're predicting, the numbers stack up pretty good for Callaway.
Very much so. They're going to wind up with over $3 billion annual revenue company. Right now, they're at just over $1 billion, and they're the largest company in the golf equipment business, larger than Titleist, Acushnet Holdings, which is who owns Titleist, by a few $100 million. But once the merger is done, you're going to have a $3.33 billion company, roughly, where less than half of the revenue is projected to be from TopGolf, and over half of the revenue is going to be from equipment and soft goods. So it's not only an interesting thing from the standpoint of Callaway shareholders, but it's also extremely good for the people who used to own TopGolf, including Callaway.
Been talking with Ed Travis, golf writer extraordinaire, equipment reviewer. Ed, thanks a lot for your time today and chatting to us a little bit about the Callaway TopGolf merger.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me, Fred.
Mike, you heard Ed say during this interview that this is really probably a pretty good deal for Callaway. What's your take on it?
I agree. It sort of diversifies Callaway's position. Obviously, TopGolf is, as Ed alluded, about half the people who go to TopGolf are not golfers, so they're going there to have a good time, to listen to music, hang out with friends and play a game that they never played before. So it's sort of puts Callaway in the food and beverage business, and if they happen to sell a few golf clubs or get a few other people out playing golf, all the better.
Yeah, that takes us right into our topic tonight for our practice range. Why did Callaway buy TopGolf? Well, first of all, as you heard Ed say, they already had a 14% stake in the company. Callaway has been involved with TopGolf since the very beginning. Callaway provides all the clubs for them now that they use on their ranges. Callaway recorded record sales and profits in the third quarter this year. Everybody suffered in the month of April and in the month of March and part of April while golf courses were closed and shut down. Matter of fact, in January 30th, Eli, which is the name for Callaway stock, ELI, traded at 21.94. That was the peak for 1920. That was back on January 30th. During the depth of the pandemic, it had dropped on March 18th to 534, almost worthless. But it rebounded slowly through the summer to 21.31. After the announcement of the merger, it dropped from 1990 on October 26th to currently it's $15.53. It's a 22% drop. So maybe the stock market is not that excited about Callaway buying TopGolf, but as you heard Ed say, it looks like when you break it down, it's probably a pretty good deal for Callaway. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
I love the comment by Ed. We said that when you look at a business transaction like this, look at who's in charge at the end, and it's the Callaway guys. So obviously they're the top banana here. They're ruling the roost. They're calling the shots, and they're now in charge of TopGolf moving forward. So they're pretty good about how they do their business, and I'm sure they'll run TopGolf in a similar way.
Yeah, buying Callaway will issue approximately 90 million shares of common stock to the shareholders. So they're buying this with no cash. It's just a stock swap. So that's a good thing. Although they are sitting on about $630 million of cash, that'll be available for operations. If they do hit a snag or some problems, they're not cash poor. Callaway shareholders will own approximately 51.5% of TopGolf, and then the TopGolf people will own about 48.5% of the rest of it. TopGolf maybe struggled a little bit in their bar and restaurant business through the year because of COVID, but they still generate approximately $1.1 billion in revenue and have grown at a 30% clip since 2017. Is this a good long-term acquisition for Callaway? Well, from what I hear Chip Brewer saying, I listened to what he said the other day, it further diversifies their company, and they've been wanting to do that. He called it transformative. He expects the combined company will have a revenue mix of 46% from TopGolf, 30% from golf equipment, and 24% from soft goods. So before, where it was like 70% golf equipment and they're really tied into the golf industry, now they dropped that and it's only about 30% now of the total revenue every year. So previous acquisitions for Callaway include Odyssey Putters, OGO, the golf bag people, Travis Matthew, the clothing people, and then Jack Wolfskin, who they make outdoor wear made from recycled plastic. Kind of an interesting little sideline there. So, and Mike, I know one key issue for me, one key part of this whole deal is Top Tracer. TopGolf owns Top Tracer. It's a leading ball tracing technology. You're best known, that's what you watch when you're watching golf on television. When that line goes out, that's Top Tracer doing that. You can go to the driving range now that has a Top Tracer capability, and you can see your ball fly through the air. You can list all the numbers. You can watch it. You can put them together side by side. All that technology is available on driving ranges. I've been to a couple of them. It's really, really good stuff. And only like 1% of all driving ranges right now have this, and they're really pushing it. So tremendous growth potential in the Top Tracer itself out in the golf range and golf driving range market practice areas. You know, TrackMan has made a huge impact. but they're too expensive to be on ranges. Top Tracer is probably about a third to a half the cost of TrackMan. So it's much more economically feasible for a driving range where they can't afford to put 1 or 2 or 3 TrackMan units out there so everybody can get their numbers. And to buy a TrackMan unit for you and me, we're talking 20, 25 grand. I don't have that in my slush fund right now to do that. So it's a lot better to go to either a simulator or go to a driving range that has like Top Tracer and do that. So any other comments on this merger or this takeover of Callaway over TopGolf?
Well, I think Callaway's doing the right thing, keeping their portfolio diversified. And anytime you can integrate technology into golf in a way that's economical and understandable and relatable, golfers will gravitate towards that. I mean, the technology in carts and allows people to figure out 163 to the hole or 98. And this is just another step forward because golf junkies, they love to know how far, how fast, how much, why, when, where, and if it can be done in an affordable way, kudos to Callaway.
Swing speed, launch angle, and spin rate. Got to know those things. That's important stuff, Mike. Hey, that wraps up the practice range segment of Back Nine Report tonight. Let's move on to our final putts, wrap up the show. Mike, you got something about Patty Harrington.
Yes, he is. Of course, he's a Ryder Cup captain next year, assuming we have a Ryder Cup. But he's excited about the prospect of turning 50. I think he's 45 now, and he is part of the next wave eventually of great players getting close to 50. But I think there's been discussion of maybe lowering that age from 50 to 45, which would make him eligible immediately, I guess.
Who turns 45 at the end of the year? The guy that wears the red shirt on Sundays. Do you think we can get Tiger on the Champions Tour? I don't see that happening anytime soon. Hey, a couple more things real quick. Yeah. Diamond Resorts announced a 3-year extension with the LPGA. You like everything about the LPGA. You get to go to that Diamond Resorts tournament over there in Naples every year for 3 more years at least. That's a short time for you, no big deal. And the LPGA Virtual Scramble will end November 15th. What's the Virtual Scramble? Well, you get your group together. You go to your own golf course. You tell them you're playing in the LPGA Virtual Scramble. Costs you $50 a head. The money goes to the LPGA Girls Golf Foundation. It's Changing the Face of Game Initiative, and it's for the Renee Powell Fund and the Phyllis G. Macon Scholarship. So really good stuff there. It's a 2-person scrambles. You don't need a 4-man team, just a 2-person scramble. Go to your own course, $50. Help somebody out. Help the LPGA Girls Golf Initiative out. Mike, I want to mention too that Michigan Golf Journal came out last week. A lot of good stuff in there. We're featuring Ace Indoor Golf and Golf Simulator business this month in the Michigan Golf Journal. Also be on the cover of Ohio Golf Journal that will be out Monday. And as you know, we got a special Masters section in there. So nobody wants to miss that. And I think there might be an article too from Mike May in there, as a matter of fact.
Holy cow, people can't wait.
Mike, thanks so much for filling in tonight. We're disappointed Carlos couldn't be with us, but he's tied up tonight. But we sure thank you for coming along and doing your thing and really making the show great.
Hey, your pleasure. I'll do it anytime.
Mike, thanks a lot. So everybody, that wraps up another Back Nine Report. We hope we see you out there on the Back Nine someplace, and stay safe, wear those masks, and wash those hands, and we'll see you somewhere.